Okay, Christine Mitchell, thank you so much for joining us on the NS podcast. Appreciate you coming through. I know you made a little bit of a trek out to make it here, but thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I was looking forward to this.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Let's start by maybe, I know you have a wealth of background in real estate.
Seen lots of changes.
Seen lots of changes throughout the years. Been with a few different brokerages from Royal LePage, Sotheby's, and Remax, and all that. Maybe tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I actually been in real estate 35 years as of this year.
Okay.
And, as I said a few minutes ago, seen lots of changes. And change is exciting. And when you're with a company like EXP that's always, loves change and always taking a look at how you can initiate change and be part of change. So it's very exciting to be here. I have been with EXP now as a regional manager just a little over 3 months, and been very, very impressed.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you think what would you say are the biggest differences between EXP and other brokerages?
In the real estate industry, there's a lot of good people and there's a lot of good brokerages.
Yeah.
This is a different business model. And so I think we attract a different agent, especially teams, because they actually own the company. And I think that's the biggest change. So, we're here to support all of the agents. And when any of the agents at any level of management are very, very open to see how we can do things differently, how we can do things better. Very open to that because you guys own the company. Everybody owns a piece of it, and that is the biggest difference.
I think that's true, and I think that ownership piece and that owner mentality is probably the biggest difference in terms of the mindset.
And when you have ownership in something, you value it, you respect it, you want it to work. Yeah. And that's why it is such a collaborative atmosphere, because everybody is there to help each other. Because if you win and someone else does really well, then the whole company does. And so the collaboration and the sharing, it's not a competitive nature. It is very collaborative.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And that's one thing that I noticed early on when I kind of started working with some of the realtors at the brokerage. And, I always say, I reached out to some big teams in the States and all around Canada. And, they were very helpful in sharing their systems and sharing their resources. And even last week I had a meeting with a referral to a consultant that may help us with an implementation of something that we're rolling out. So just kind of being able to share those resources and access to those types of people, I think is huge. I think that ownership mentality, it's just being able to join a company and sort of be in a position. This is one of the reasons why I decided to kind of build my business at EXP, because I always wanted to open my brokerage. And as much as maybe there's some benefits for me if I was to open an independent brokerage, I just felt that the opportunity that everybody that I would work with has, it's hard to, as an independent broker, it'd be hard to give that opportunity to everybody, right? So it's like here you're coming on and you sort of have this opportunity that a franchise brokerage owner would have or a brokerage owner would have. It's kind of built into everybody from the ground floor, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was the big thing when I said, okay, the people on my team or the people that I want to do business with, it's like, where can I give them the most amount of opportunity? And I felt like within this ecosystem, again, starting from the collaboration and the resources and all that, now I have access to all that to provide them and all the value that comes with that. But at the same time, that ownership mindset and that ownership opportunity that they have now, I just felt like it was the best way, the best opportunity for them, right?
Well, and a lot of people don't realize we're in, I believe, 24 countries. We have almost 3,000 agents in Ontario. and we are growing by leaps and bounds. And, you know, even from the broker management staff, I think we figured out the other day that we have a little over 220 some years collectively.
Wow.
And, you know, what's really different and was a pleasant surprise for myself is that we have a system that even though we're working virtually, I've never worked so closely with a group of other broker managers in any other system as I have with EXP.
Yeah.
We have a system that we are all on all day long. We're talking to each other all day long. If someone in Ottawa hasn't run into a situation before, or Central Toronto or London or Windsor, one of us jump on, and we always have something to share about the experiences or how we might handle the situation, how we might take a look at positioning something differently. And, you know, I've worked in an office where, you know, you'd have maybe another manager, up the hall, and you wouldn't see each other except for maybe every quarter when you were at a manager's meeting. We're together. We have managers meetings weekly, but we're together daily.
Yeah.
And I think the agents, I know the agents really appreciate that, and they know that they're going to get an answer, and they're going to get it when they ask.
Yeah. I think that because of the fact that we have sort of this best-in-class digital collaboration set up within the organization, I think now that we're seeing like the more local events, more offices being opened up locally, it's like now we have the best of both worlds, right? Whereas it's great to have the offices and be able to meet in person, and that's part of the culture as well. But just having that ability to collaborate at scale and do it effectively, you know, I think we've done that really well, and I think it's really important to do that. Even now, we were like, for the team, because we have the Port Credit office, and then we're gonna have the Hamilton office opening up. So we're like, where do we run the meetings, and like, do we do it virtually? But I think if you can do it effectively virtually, and then have that in-person component as well, but I think having that virtual, having that virtual element of it where people can engage, and you know, it's more than just a Google Meet or a Zoom in terms of doing it, but there's actual there's some good back and forth and communication going on, and that accessibility in terms of doing it. I think it's really important, and it's that different setup that allows us to, I think, be able to scale effectively and all that. Was there anything else about the company that drew you to EXP in terms of an organization?
The organization changed a lot the last few years, and I really respect the leadership. Our Ontario senior management team, I've never seen a group of people that are so excited they're looking every day. How can we make this better? How can we make this better for you? You know, what rally can we do? Should we be getting together more? We just had a fabulous rally in Toronto a week ago. I think there was around 300 or more people that were there. It was amazing. We're going to have our conference, our annual conference is going to be in Toronto, so stay tuned for that. We're looking forward to hearing what who the speakers are and what's going to be going on. And we're in growth mode, and we're not taking a look at the business in a rearview mirror. We're taking a look at, there's a lot of changes in real estate on both sides of the border. I think it's positive. And, we're looking at how we're going to grow and be able to support all of you in those changes.
Yeah, no, I love that. One of the things with New Street, the acronym New Street, we use NS as well, and it also has another meaning, which is never stop improving. Like we had the corporation was called New Street Inc., and it always kind of had double meanings, whereas never stop improving, and that's kind of at the core of what I always kind of looked at it, and I really feel that also resonates with EXP. It's like they're always trying to innovate and push the envelope, and I don't think it would be a false statement to say that they've also kind of help the industry and everyone else kind of push themselves to be better and kind of elevate and try to add more value to the agents. So I think it's a win-win overall, because I think there's some pressures now that, you have to add value to the agents, and you have to kind of create that collaborative culture, which I don't think was as common in the past.
Mm-hmm. It's a different business model.
Yeah.
You're the owners.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. So I know you talked about sort of some of the, obviously there's so much changes, right? I think now we got the new TRESA regulations coming in, which we're gonna chat about a little bit. I think this new business model is different than a lot of other brokerages in the industry. So a lot of different changes. What do you think is some of the biggest changes in Ontario that are going to be happening in terms of maybe the brokerage or just the business itself?
I think we're going to see a lot of growth. There are more people picking up the phone. I'm hearing it from you. I'm hearing it, from other teams, and people are really, they're very interested in the fact that they're part of the company and they're part of the change. And, everybody had a life before real estate, and a lot of people before real estate came from business. They came, they did different things, and they bring all of those strengths to the real estate industry. Mm-hmm. When you're with our business model with EXP, you're able to run your team or your brokerage, your arm of the brokerage, the way you want to and the way you would like to see it evolve, and you get to benefit from that and the financial gain of it at the end of the year. So there's a lot more interest in that. I think you're going to see some pretty massive growth, especially in Ontario.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And
our training, a lot of people don't realize that we do have the world, mm-hmm. and that's fine. But we also do a lot of training, mm-hmm. Live on Google Meets as well, mm-hmm. and we're bringing in guest speakers. We're bringing in Geo Warehouse and taking a look at what, not just how to get on to Geo Warehouse, but what are some of the reports? How do you use those reports to build your business? We have, we've got all sorts of workplace chat groups where people don't know how to use KV Core. They want ideas on how to build their business, how to prospect. There are groups, mm-hmm. that are right across the country all the time they're sharing.
Yeah.
But on a weekly basis, on Mondays, we have training, some sort of training every Monday virtually. On Tuesday mornings at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have an open forum where there's 2 or 3 of us broker managers, and whoever wants to pop on and just talk about anything that's going on in real estate.
Yeah.
Whether you're new, you're seasoned, you've had a hard week. We share how we would deal with different situations.
Yeah.
We have our weekly meetings on Wednesdays. That's in the World in one of our auditoriums, and there's just something going on all the time.
And the amazing thing is that's all corporately managed, yes. At EXP. And then a lot of times, within our organization, we have some weekly meetings. Within the team, we'll have some meetings. So it's the amount of collaboration and opportunity to, if you have any issues, if you have any questions, to be able to tap into that, and also just stay relevant and stay on top of the market and different things that are happening. I think the amount of resources is amazing, I find. So it's really interesting to, it's really good with some of the stuff you guys are doing corporately, and it's just everyone's kind of just working together to create as much value for the teams and for the agents. Do you want to maybe chat about maybe where you think EXP was maybe a couple of years ago, or even a year and a half ago to now? Because I feel like it's a complete 360. I feel like there's so much, we have 8 broker managers in Ontario, especially in Ontario. I feel like there's been a lot of growth and a lot of investment on behalf of EXP in the Ontario marketplace?
Well, I've only been here a few months.
That's right, yeah.
But what I can say is that when the agents ask for something, if it can be developed, if it can be implemented, it is.
Yeah.
And the company knew that as the growth was happening, that they needed to add to their management team. There's 8 of us across the province. Also, we have 2 managers that are on duty on weekends. And, that was something that our competition often suggests that there isn't broker support. There's more broker support at EXP than anywhere that I've ever seen. And,
that's true.
When the 2 of us are on the weekend, that means we're on. If there's a phone call at 8 o'clock, if there's a phone call at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're there, we're focused. We know that, that's our duty time for the weekend. And so we are here to support. Before we got started today, you heard, several phone calls come in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, we're trying to get out, and as virtual as we are, it's really important to us to get in front of you and get to know each other.
Yeah.
And that's very important. And I think that's a big difference.
It is, yeah. No, and I completely agree with you. Like the amount of, just the accessibility of the brokers and having that available at all hours of the day. And I've been at another brokerage where, you'd have one broker manager for, the office, and it was kind of hit and miss, right? So I do think I always believed in a corporate structure for a brokerage in terms of, having a lot of resources available. And I just feel like EXP has been able to facilitate that in a really, really great way here in Ontario, because we have so many great people on the corporate level that are helping out. Fantastic. So let's dive into some TRESA stuff.
Oh, that word.
Yeah, TRESA. I know. I mean, I wanted to have this discussion about it because I feel like it's some big changes are coming to the industry with these new regulations, and I feel like although people may know that a lot of realtors may know and maybe, but I don't think the general public knows that there's going to be some changes. So I think just kind of introducing it and trying to simplify as much of the changes as possible in terms of introducing them. But what are your overall thoughts on, I guess maybe how these new regulations have been kind of brought, introduced to the market and kind of implemented and that, just from a high level, what are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Well, I mean, the very first stage of all of this was PRECs, and I believe that there's over 12,000 PRECs in Ontario today, and so that's allowed a producing agent to be able to run their operation and have tax benefits by their PREC. The biggest change right now is our code of ethics, and it's not as scary as it needs to be. Mm-hmm. You're right. We either have people that haven't heard tell of it at all, or we've got people that are panicked and they go, "Oh my heavens, my life is going to change as we know it." And really, the changes that TRESA brings in are the way we should have always been operating. Mm-hmm. It just makes it more clear for the consumer, and frankly, I think much easier for the agent, as long as they understand the expectations and they understand how to explain it to the consumer. But life isn't going to stop. It's just going to get better. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of confusion around what's representation, what's the biggest change with that? How are we going to deal with the paperwork? The biggest change is that there is no more customer. So you are either a client or you're self-represented, and I'll get into that in a few minutes. But there's no more customer. And for a long time, the consumer was confused because they didn't know their services were limited when they were a customer, and the agent was confused as to what can I say, what can I not say. So it's very clearly defined now. You're either a client or you're going solo. You're self-represented. And to make that process easier, RICO has come out. We don't have it in our hands yet, but there is a new book, and I have an advanced copy of it, and it's called the RICO Information Guide. One of the things that you cannot do with this guide is you can't personalize it, because RICO wants to know, because this has to be given to everyone. And this guide, and you know, I've heard a lot of realtors go, "What do you mean it's over 10 pages?" But it makes it easier for the consumer. And so basically what it does, it breaks it down, and here's what it covers. And I'm just going to go off the top. It talks about working with a real estate agent, what that means. If you're a buyer or seller, what does that mean? If you choose to represent yourself. So you're going to hear SRP a lot, and that's self-represented parties. So it goes over, you know, what the risks are if you're going to represent yourself. It says, you know, what it means to sign any type of contract with a brokerage, and what does that mean, and it breaks it down. It talks about how to make a complaint. It tells the consumer everything, and so you do have to explain it. One of our biggest changes is that before you are providing any type of service, or frankly having a conversation about a service that you might provide in real estate, you have to satisfy two things. You've got to give a copy of this guide to a prospective client or a self-represented party. You have to give it to them, and you have to explain the content. Those are the two major things that you need to do. And there's going to be a new form that if someone says, "No, I'm going to represent myself, I'm going to have my lawyer write the offer, I've done enough real estate, I want to look at the house myself," then there is a form that you're going to sign, which is one of the new forms. And it is, I think it's called Information and Disclosure for a self-represented party. I think it's going to be Form 216. The form numbers might change a little bit before the end of November. So that is when the forms are released. But that's really the biggest thing. You're a client, and you have that in writing of what type of client and what services it is that you're going to have, or you're self-represented.
Yeah.
And if you're self-represented, you're going to fill this form out to say, "Yes, I am, and I acknowledge it, and I understand it, and you've explained the risks, and you've given me the guide."
Yeah.
So that's not bad, is it?
No, I always found, like, when I understood the terminology of, you know, what customer service was before, it never made any sense to me. Because for me, customer service is customer service. It's positive. It's, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to give you the best service, right? But then the definition for it was different, and I just never understood it. So it never made any sense. So now it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more clear, because you're either self-represented or you're a client, and you get full representation. So I think again, it's just I think it does make it clear. I think the big thing for people is that change is always hard. You know, change is always hard, and I feel like we've been going through a lot of changes in terms of, you know, the real estate boards are rolling out different platforms all the time, and there's new things and new processes. So I think the big thing for a lot of people is just, you know, getting over the change. But I think all of these changes are, you know, they're actually improvements to the industry. And the reason I got into the real estate business was because I spent several years on the marketing side. And I always got to see that entire life cycle of, you know, generating leads and kind of seeing those workflows. But then when they got passed on to the sales side, I never really got visibility on it from a marketing standpoint. But my whole thing was to kind of see that full circle customer journey and see how can we improve that? You know, how can we make it better? How can we, because I just felt like there was opportunity there. And this is going back 7 years ago, right? I feel like the industry as a whole has done a great job of improving the customer experience and kind of pushing forward. And that's why I always say, you know, collaboration over competition, because, you know, if we could all make ourselves better, then it's just going to help what we deliver to the consumer and how that whole journey looks. So
well, and so one of the other changes is designated agency. And so it really just clarifies what I think the consumer thought they were getting in the first place. I mean, when you list a property, yes, it's still listed with the brokerage, and the brokerage does still represent them. But if you talk to somebody, they didn't say, I'm listed, I'm listed with Jerry, or I'm listed with Mary. And so with designated agency, you can have two clients in the same brokerage. So if I have a listing, you're my client. If I have your house listed, then I am designated as your agent, and you are my client. And if there is somebody else in the office that has a buyer, then they can be designated to represent that buyer's client. And so I encourage everybody to, go to the RICO site, take a look at the bulletins. I mean, some of these bulletins are 4 or 5 pages long, but it really breaks it down as to exactly what this means. I just think it's going to be much, much clearer for the consumer, because that's what they thought they were getting anyways. And so it just makes it much clearer. One of the biggest changes, though, is how offers can be handled.
Yeah.
So all the same rules are going to be, if there's 5 offers, it has to be disclosed to everybody. So none of those things are going to change. What is really changing when it comes to offers is the fact that the sellers now have the opportunity, if they wish to, by signing a direction to you as the listing agent, that the offers can be an open process. So, and the seller can make that decision at any time during the negotiations, and they can direct you as to what it is that they want disclosed. They can't disclose anything that would identify who one of the buyers are. So if it was conditional on the sale of the property, not the address, not the name of who is bringing it. But if you and your client said, okay, we want to open this up so that we tell everybody what the offers are. So that content can be done. Yeah, there's a new form that has to be filled out, and it is giving you direction as to what it is that they want to have disclosed. We're going to be, over the next couple of weeks, compiling some best practices, because with the new code of ethics, it doesn't come with a lot of rules. It's like having a baby. You come home from the hospital and you got this new baby, and you know what it is you're supposed to do, but how do you do it?
Yeah.
And so with the code of ethics, we know what it is, and we know how we have to abide by things. What's it going to look like? And so the new forms and what some of the best practices are, where it's going to become really important for your brokerage to be able. And we've already decided that our weekly meetings are going to be focused on best practices, and we want to be able to break this down for you in small bites, so that it takes the confusion out of things.
No, that makes sense. And is the intention that all the forms are going to be different?
Well, anything that had, a lot of the forms dealt with customer service. So anything that had that wording, yes. So when we heard, there's changes for, hundreds of forms, the major forms, there's 30 or 40 that have been tweaked. Yeah. And on November 29th, I believe that there's going to be a webinar that AREA is putting on, and that is when the forms are going to be released. And my understanding is that all the third-party suppliers that different real estate companies use now to gather their forms will have those all uploaded and ready for everybody to use for December 1st. So what's important is listen to we had over 700 agents at our TRESA rolled out this past week. We're going to be doing it again. And I think it's just really important that if you weren't able to attend one of the seminars at your board or at your real estate company, is we do have those, we did videotape it. So listen to that. Go onto the area.com site under TRESA, listen to some of those videos and be sure to read the bulletins. It's not going to be as difficult as it seems. When they talked about the change of the code of ethics, personally, I just think that was common sense anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, you act professionally. Well, we should always be acting professionally. This is a profession.
Yep.
So that is how we should act. One of the other things that's stipulated is not to mislead anyone. Why do you need to mislead? Treat everyone the way you want to be treated and tell the truth and don't mislead. Can't be a party to fraud. You can't violate human rights. Of course not. You can't harass people, and you can't communicate to someone else's clients. Those are all things that are to protect the consumer, but that's how we should have been doing business all the way along anyways.
No, that makes sense for sure, yeah. Are those the key highlights?
Those are the key highlights. And
it sounds like common sense.
Yeah, it sounds like common sense. Yeah. And then one of the things that's also added, and it's going to be worded differently than I'm talking about it today, but if you're making a settlement with someone, you can't make it conditional that they're going to remove the complaint from RICO. Okay, so if there's a settlement, there's a settlement, but you can't do that. And so that is actually written into the Code of Ethics.
One of the other changes, from my understanding, is that now you can initiate a RICO complaint without a complaint.
Without it being formal.
Yeah, so I guess there's an internal initiation of the process. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, and what do you think kind of was the reason that they made that change?
I don't think that's all bad. Yeah. We were, buyers and sellers just want to buy a home and they want to sell their home and they don't want to get mixed up into, what the realtors, how they do business. And so asking them to sit down and do a formal complaint if something wasn't treated properly, because sometimes put them in a position they didn't want to be in. And so what that's all going to look like, I'm not exactly sure, but we do know that if there is something that is strong enough that someone feels that it needs to be dealt with, that they are going to be able to go to RICO and they are going to put different processes in place. How that's going to roll out and what that's going to look like, stay tuned. It's to come. Yeah. But I don't think that's all bad, and I think that it'll make the consumer feel more confident. It's also one of the reasons in that 11-page, 10-page brochure I was talking about that needs to be given to everyone. It actually states, if you have the right for a RICO complaint, and here's how you do it.
Got it. So the RICO information guide, is that going to be a substitute for the working with the realtor form?
I don't believe it's going to be a substitute. I think that I think it's going to be an addition.
Got it.
I think that the working with the realtor form or the confirmation of representation or whatever they decide to call it. And again, these forms, we don't have our hands on these forms yet. And so we got to stay tuned for that. But I think that this is going to be consumer fronting that here. Before we go into any further into the process, before I list your home, before I write an offer, before I start to show you properties, here. Understand the process. And if you've got any questions, I'm here to answer it. Now, you have the opportunity to choose the level of service, the extent of service that you want. And we've got some new documentation that's going to support whatever our decision is and how we're going to work together. And that's really what it is. We're
going to have to stack up on ink cartridges that we're going to print out. But I guess there will be a way to share those digitally with potential
Yes,
prospect?
one of the sessions I was at, Rico mentioned that there is a link that you would be able to send. That doesn't mean that you still don't, the expectation is that you are still to explain what it is that you're giving them. But my understanding is that there is a link. One of the sessions I was at, they said that link will expire after 7 days. So that way, if someone met you and you gave that to them, and then 3 months later, somebody else met them, and they would need to be given that again. So it's not like they're going to have these 25 links sitting on their computer.
It'll be interesting to understand how they track that digitally.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. So there is nothing in the Code of Ethics that says that you have to track it. However, you better be able to prove it.
Yeah.
So what is your, how do you operate your business? Am I going to send this digit and I can track this myself and I can prove and show that I did explain this? And then when it comes time to do the offer, then you'll have all your paperwork that will support what it was that they chose.
Yeah.
And if they chose to be self-represented, then right up front, you get that new form signed that says that they acknowledge that you discussed it. They understand what the risks are to representing themselves, and then you move forward from there.
Maybe we chat a little bit about that, because I think that's the biggest piece, is the self-represented and the client representation. Is there any changes to the client representation?
So a client, you're always working the best interest of the client, and that's the big thing. It's one of the reasons they got rid of There's No More Customer, because there was confusion of who you actually were representing and what you could share. With an SRP, a self-represented party, all you can do is help them. And so the rules around this that we've been told so far.
It's a general term.
Yeah, you can help. So what does that mean? So don't do anything that requires the skill of a realtor, the judgment of a realtor, the opinion of a realtor, the advice of a realtor, or the service. So those are the 5 things: skill, judgment, opinion, advice, and service. You can help them. So if they wanted to, and that's it. So before you do anything, just stop and think. Am I helping them, or am I starting to give them some sort of service? You know, I can't tell them what the price is. I can't tell them. One of the things you do have to tell an SRP is anything they share with you, you can tell your client.
Yeah.
Motivation, price, opportunity. You're going to share all of that with your client because that's who you represent. And so you've got to make that really clear to a self-represented party.
Yeah. And then there is an opportunity to essentially have to do multiple representation with 2 clients, but it's not really advisable.
Yeah, it's not really advisable, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of focus on that. The question is, does it still exist? It can. Does it need to? When you've got designated parties, it may be, your team or your brokerage is going to take a look at that. And, we're not putting any rules around it. But, as I said, we're going to come up with some suggestions of best practices. Yeah. And as we go on to this, in a few months, you're going to have one real estate company that comes up with some best practices that, you may take a look at it and go, this is a really great idea to position it this way, and we do, and somebody else does. So, Rico is saying, here's the new Code of Ethics, and here's what our expectations are. Now, you guys go and be sure you operate your business in accordance to the new Code of Ethics and our expectations.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's, now that I've kind of digested some of it, it's not really that bad. And it's, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a positive thing for the consumer. I think it's a lot more clear. I think things were a little bit unclear and vague in the past in terms of especially like the client and the customer service representation. And I guess having a 10-page guidebook that kind of outlines everything from the jump is going to be beneficial, because then they have sort of all the information that they need to kind of get that process started. So I think I look at it as some positive changes that are coming, but definitely lots of changes.
Yeah. Well, you know something, that's life. There's always changes.
That's it.
There's always changes.
Is there anything else? Any other changes happening at the brokerage, or anything else you want to maybe give some shout outs, or any initiatives we're working on at the?
Nothing that I can discuss.
Nothing. No?
But there's always great change.
Yeah.
Always great change with EXP. Always lots of growth with
Yeah.
EXP. And, you know, I just invite anyone to be curious.
That's it.
Have a conversation with us, and then you can make a decision if this is a business model for you or not.
That's it. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you, Christine Mitchell. Thank you so much.
And thank you for
coming
having
through.
me.
I usually just give a little handshake at the end. Thank you. Yeah, no, that's good.